Tonight I'm going to read you some lines from the novel Mary Reilly from Valentine Martin. This book is a transposition, is inspired by the most famous novel from Louis Stevenson, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Gothic novel written some time ago. And this novel, Mary Reilly, has also been transposed in movie in 1996 with a wonderful movie on screen with the main characters John Malkovich and Julia Roberts. I'm sure you're going to like it because it's gothic and very, very complex. It wasn't the first time I'd been shut up in the closet, if closet isn't too grand a word for the little cupboard under the stairs. It was 10 and small for my age, but I had to fold myself up into a painful crouch to fit in the narrow, dirty space, and that was always part of the struggle, getting me fit, which was part of this pleasure, I've no doubt. That time I didn't struggle, but tired to get in place as quick as I could. He was in a rare temper, and I feared he'd have my life if I didn't look sharp about doing as he said. I'd broken a cup, trying to wash it, and then hidden the pieces, which I've found, of course. So beside being a careless, loutish girl, I was a liar too, and probably a thief. Mom was at her work, so there was no hope for help there. Not that she ever dared cross my, but sometimes when she was about, he went easier on me. He'd slap me once and pull me about by my hair before he lit on the cupboard. When he opened the door, shoving and shouting at me, I crawled in as best I could, eager to be out of his hand's reach. And as I was folding myself up so that he could close the door, I caught his eye, and my heart sank, for I saw the ease of my punishment didn't please him, and it at a glance saw the silly figure he cut, a grown man taking on a child, and this had redoubled his anger, and there would be hell to pay for me. Then it was dark and no hair. I screamed because I couldn't help it. I heard him pull on the chair at the table, and he sits here, guarding me. "Please," I begged, "let me out. I won't ever be so weak again." But he didn't make a sound, and that made me anxious, as it meant he were thinking. I put my forehead against my knees and tried not to scream or beg, as I knew, when it was quite like that, it would be no good. Then I heard him get up and leave the room. I heard the door to the alley behind open and close. I pushed on the cupboard door, but it was hopeless. There was a good lock on it, the only one in our 2 rooms that kept anything in or out. Worse luck for me. I thought he might have gone out to the gin palace, and I set myself to a good long wait, possibly until Mom came back, so long that the thought of it brought tears to my eyes. But after a little while, I heard him come back in, pull out the chair, and sit again. "Sir," I called out, "may I please be let out now?" For answer I heard that loud, sick loud. He had sometimes, when he'd had so much liquor, he didn't remember the next day what he'd done, and it made me tremble, as I knew this meant the very worst for me. I wished I had not spoken to remind him I was still at his ease. After a few minutes I heard him get up again and come on the door. Then he was standing in front of it, laughing in that way I could hardly bear to hear, and I didn't know what to do, beg or be silent. He said, "Mary, I'm opening this door, but if you know what's good for you, you'd best not move." The door opened, and the light from the lamp confused me, so I couldn't see. Then he leaned towards me, and I saw he had a little hopsack bag with a string drawn at the top. Perhaps there was a few inches between my knees and my head, for I was looking up at him, trying to think what I had best do. But before I could make out much of anything, it stuffed the bag in with me, saying, "Here's somewhat to keep you company." And then the door was closed again. There was another black moment while I tried to understand what it was. I heard no fear. I knew at once that there was something in the bag, that it was meant to harm me. But what it was, my childish imagination couldn't conjure. Then I felt it moving, and knew it was some animal. No doubt as frightened as I was. I'd only a thin skirt on, which I had pulled down over my knees as best as I could, so it wasn't long before the creature began to work his way through the two thin layers separating us in that narrow, breathless space. I felt a claw sink into my thigh, and I pulled myself up rigid, as if I could make more room, but there was no more room to make, and I think the rat sensed that as well as I. I knew it was a rat, and where he'd got it. There was plenty to be had in the alleys nearby, and often enough he'd brought me to whimpering by sending me out for a pint when it was dark and I had to pick my way among them. So he'd put one of these rats in the bag and close it up with me. I could not speak, but I tried just to breathe, and then I said, "Sir, don't do this." But I had only a whispering voice, so he mayn't have heard me. The rat wasn't in a panic yet, but was gnawing the cloth, and I could hear it, and knew in no time the bag would give out, and my own skin would be next. I threw my weight against the door, so I got one arm free a little and tried to push the bag down to my feet. I cried out, "Sir!" and I heard him laugh again. The cloth was given away. I could hear it and feel the animal's snout moving against my leg, but of course I could see nothing and scarcely move, so I was helpless. I screamed. I felt the first bite at my ankle, and I screamed for all I was worth, but after that I felt very little, and only screamed because I could not stop screaming. Once it was out of the sack, the creature was everywhere at once, crazy to get to me or away from me. I couldn't tell which, and I could move about freely as I could not. I scraped and tore my arms against the walls, trying to protect myself with my hands, and that was why, as you observe, many of the scars on my hands. After a long time, in which I screamed and begged so that you would have thought a stone would be moved to pity, the door opened and the rat leaped out, scrambled across the floor to the door, and back to the safety of the alley. Oh, that is how I imagine it must have happened, for I did not know at the time, nor I did know anything or anyone for some time to come, including my own mom, who was so took when she came home and I found me lying for dead in the corner with him asleep at the table, so that she did what I'd never have thought she had the courage to do. She called a constable and had me conveyed to the hospital at sea, where I lay in a swoon for many weeks.